begin tonight, Fox News Alert. Breaking just moments ago, Georgia Congressman Doug Collins has released 8 closed-door hearing transcripts from his committee's investigation into the FBI and Obama's DOJ. We now, here it comes, this is what I've been telling you, cascading down the avalanche. We have scores of new transcripts from Loretta Lynch. Either she or Comey are lying. Andrew McCabe, James Rybicki, and many other high-ranking officials. Based on these newly released documents, we can now confirm one major piece of information. The former Attorney General under Barack Obama, that's right, Lynch, threw James Comey right under the bus and told Congress she never asked the embattled FBI director to refer to the Clinton criminal investigation as a matter. Comey said just the opposite. One of them is lying. Who lied to Congress? Who committed the crime? Under oath. It would be a serious violation. Oh, yeah, it was important on the Trump side. Now let's see the mainstream hate Trump media mob do their job on this side. We are combing through this information, each line of every transcript. We will have full analysis. Greg Jarrett, Sarah Carter, Matt Gaetz, and so much more. Also breaking tonight, the president, he just wrapped up a raucous rally in Pennsylvania, drawing a way bigger crowd than any of his Democratic challengers, including sleepy, creepy, crazy Uncle Joe. Now, coming up, we're going to show you all the highlights from tonight's speech. But first, we have more big breaking news out of the deep state. We're going to go slow tonight. We'll make sure we get it all in. I want to set the stage. Tonight is just the beginning of what is coming every day, week, month ahead. And there is a ton of it. An avalanche of new information, new documents. They will all reveal a shocking level of corruption, bias, lawlessness at the highest levels of the deep state. It's all about to be revealed. At this hour, your federal government is in possession of transcripts from 2016 featuring secretly recorded conversations between FBI informants and one-time Trump campaign aide George Papadopoulos. According to those who have seen these transcripts, its contents are chock full of clear, irrefutable, incontrovertible, exculpatory evidence proving Trump-Russia collusion was always a hoax from the get-go. Now, this includes former Congressman Trey Gowdy, who is now calling these documents, quote, game-changing. Let's take a look.
And if the Bureau is going to send an informant in, the informant's going to be wired. And if the Bureau is monitoring telephone calls, there's going to be a transcript of that. And some of us have been fortunate enough to know whether or not those transcripts exist, but they haven't been made public. And I think one in particular it has the potential to actually persuade people. Very little on this Russia probe, I'm afraid, is going to persuade people who hate Trump or who love Trump. But there is some information in these transcripts that I think has the potential to be a game changer if it's ever made public.
This material must be made available. Oh, where's Jerry Nadler? Where is, Adam Schiff, the biggest liar in Congress, the cowardly Schiff? Because if Comey struck other high-level officials, the highest level, not rank and file, we always make a distinction. I have an FBI pin and a CIA pin on tonight, the 99% that protect us every day. But those in the FBI and the CIA at the upper echelon, the intel community, were withholding exculpatory evidence. Let me tell you, this is bigger than we ever thought. It means the level of premeditated fraud, conspiracy against the FISA court. That means there was a real attempt to steal a presidential election with Russian lies paid for by Hillary and an effort to unseat, when they lost, a duly elected president of you, the people. Much worse than we ever knew. Now, keep in mind, Papadopoulos, he was just one of several Trump campaign members who, in fact, were being surveilled by Comey's FBI. And this transcript is just one of the several buckets. We've told you there's 5 of information that will soon be revealed. We're also expecting the declassified FISA application against Carter Page. That should reveal how Comey and others totally, completely relied on the phony Clinton bought and paid for Russian disinformation dossier that was passed off as verified material, and we now know they were warned repeatedly that it was not. Now, this weekend, former Congressman Gowdy had this to say about the deep state's love affair with Christopher Steele's unverifiable. Why? Because he doesn't stand by it. Dirty dossier. Take a look.
We can call it a dossier. It sounds official. It's really something the National Enquirer would blush if they printed. So we know that it was used 4 times by the United States government. What we're trying to figure out is whether or not it was used a 5th time in the intelligence assessment. And you got Brennan, Clapper, and Comey, all 3 who know full well whether or not it was used in the intelligence assessment, but they're giving you different versions.
Now, soon, if justice is served, we will all have access to the very same material that Trey Gowdy reviewed as a sitting member of Congress. And tonight, good news, according to the Freedom Caucus chairman, Mark Meadows of North Carolina. And he's talking about document releases that are just around the corner, as we've been telling you. Let's take a look.
I think the delay's over. I think the president is serious. I've spoken to him recently, and I think declassification is right around the corner, and hopefully the American people will be able to judge for themselves.
Now, while we look forward to the release of the FISA applications, the Papadopoulos transcript, one former FBI agent, with the help of Judicial Watch, is now requesting a trove of documents related to Andrew McCabe, Operation Mid-Year Exam. That's the one against Hillary, of course, for the server. And, then the intent was to destroy the subpoenaed emails, 33,000 of them. And as you know, McCabe was Comey's second in command at the FBI until he was fired. And now there is a criminal referral for, quote, repeated lying. And according to a brand new report out from Sarah Carter this evening, a retired FBI agent issued a FOIA request for emails related to McCabe's wife and the Clintons. Remember the case? Jill McCabe had deep ties to all-world Clinton, launched a 2015 state Senate campaign at the behest of the Virginia governor, Clinton hack Terry McAuliffe. And McCabe's campaign even accepted, get this, nearly $500,000 from McAuliffe's Political Action Committee and another $292,000 from a second Democratic PAC. Now, let me just put this in perspective. That is an obscene, unprecedented amount of money for a little state Senate campaign, and frankly, an obscene amount of money for any such race. Now, clearly, this does represent yet another conflict of interest at the highest levels of the FBI, which clearly had their favorite candidate in 2016, and we all know it was not Donald Trump. That's why there was an exoneration before an investigation. That's why it's irrefutable, incontrovertible evidence. She broke the law, violated the Espionage Act, and had the intent of destroying the evidence when she deleted 33,000 subpoenaed emails, bleach bit the hard drive, had an aide bust up the devices, and yanked out the SIM cards. But the chosen one, Hillary Clinton, she was given that free pass after she did all of this. Yes, there was classified, top-secret material. Then, of course, the obstruction, everything that I now told you. A free pass for obvious crimes while the president of the United States is forced to endure a nearly 3-year witch hunt based entirely on a hoax that they knew of from the get-go. I'm going to get back to my monologue in just a minute, but first, joining us now with more on McCabe's conflicts of interest, Fox News investigative reporter Sarah Carter. You have been working on this story for quite some time, and it is now about to be released.
Yes, so former supervisory special agent Jeffrey Danick has been fighting for over 2 years, Sean, with Judicial Watch to get the text messages of former and fired Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Apparently, it is a treasure trove. It's not only going to answer questions regarding his wife and those issues, but apparently there's a lot more information contained in these text messages and emails that the FBI does not want to release. Now, the Department of Justice has been fighting Judicial Watch on this in the courts, and Judicial Watch filed a motion last week against the DOJ to release the documents. Judicial Watch is expecting the DOJ to turn those documents over. And as you stated earlier, Sean, there is now the official transcripts right here that have been released by Representative Collins. We're scouring through them just as you are. I think some of the most interesting things that I've discovered relate to Tricia Anderson. Now, she was an FBI national security lawyer, and she was working directly with James Baker as well as Lisa Page. And in her transcripts, in the back and forth with the questioners, she talks about Bruce Orr and the 302s. She talks about the fact that she basically signed off on the first FISA warrant on Carter Page. And as you stated earlier, Carter Page right now, there are transcripts expected to be released of his conversations as well with Stefan Halper, very similar to George Papadopoulos, who was being probed by Stefan Halper, who was the former British professor who was gathering information for the FBI and spying on the Trump campaign. The most interesting fact, I think, and I'll leave you with this, Sean, is that Tricia Anderson basically tries to downplay Bruce Orr's involvement when they question about being the back channel for Christopher Steele after the FBI fired him. And they question her over and over again if the FBI actually had enough evidence to go after a FISA with what they found in the dossier. And Tricia Anderson refuses to answer on multiple occasions. So it's going to be very interesting to see what comes out next. It's going to be very interesting to see what the Department of Justice, Attorney General William Barr will have as far as information on, on the investigation and how it coincides with these transcripts. I think people have a lot of answering to do.
A lot of spying. You forgot the
right.
Bond movie, Blonde Bombshell with Papadopoulos, Sam Clovis, Papadopoulos, Carter Page, FISA warrant, a lot. Oh, James Comey says that wasn't spying. And he, of course, signed off on the first FISA application in October 2016, verifying it's true and accurate, but told Trump later, no, it's unverified. And now Loretta Lynch contradicting her testimony, and you're breaking news. Sarah, great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also breaking tonight, we did learn that the Mueller investigators, they were given permission by the British government to interview the dirty dossier's author, Christopher Steele. Yes, that Christopher Steele, the guy who does not stand behind his own dossier. The Christopher Steele, in an interrogatory under the threat of perjury, said, I don't know if any of this is true. The same Steele that was fired by the FBI for lying and leaking. The same Steele who was back-channeling, we know now, information to Mueller's investigators after being fired through Bruce Orr. And, of course, did you get this to the special counsel? Why would you trust a liar and leaker? And as you know, Mueller concluded the Trump campaign did not collude in any way with the Russian government. 4 separate investigations. So we can now deduce that Steele's so-called intel, he doesn't stand by it. He thinks it's BS, and it always was. It was James Comey, his high-ranking deputies, that swore that the contents were true and accurate, and the word verified appears at the very top of the FISA request application. That was into Carter Page to get into all things Trump campaign, all things Trump transition, and all things Trump as president. This is why I've been calling it the biggest abuse of power corruption scandal in our history. Just to recap, the deputy FBI director, Andrew McCabe, yes, criminal investigation referral, fired for lying. Lead investigator, Strzok, Page, fired, political bias, or Strzok was, and Lisa Page resigning. General Counsel Baker resigning, reportedly facing a criminal investigation himself for leaking. Comey's chief of staff, James Rybicki, also leaving. About 25 in total between the State Department, FBI, fired, leaving in disgrace, or demoted. Bruce Orr was once the 4th highest ranking member at the DOJ. And let's not forget, James Comey himself was fired for mishandling the Clinton investigation. That's Comey's legacy: turmoil, bias, corruption at the highest levels of what is, right there, FBI pin, the single greatest law enforcement agency in the entire world, tainting the 99% of people that risk their lives for us. But if you listen to Mr. Comey, who thinks he's smarter than us, we're smelly Walmart people, he thinks he's a super patriot, he knew better than the American people, oh, he could do no wrong whatsoever. Everyone else is bad. Everyone else is evil. So naturally, Comey, all too happy to parrot now Democratic talking points about Attorney General Barr, writing on Twitter, the AG should stop sliming his own department. If there are bad facts, show us, or search for them professionally. Then tell us what you found. An AG must act like the leader of the Department of Justice, an organization based on truth. Donald Trump has enough spokespeople. Jim, I suggest a mirror to self. Take a look. According to Wall Street Journal, Barr's fighting back and reminding Comey he is fighting for the presidency, which is his rightful duty in the executive branch. And perhaps Comey could use a refresher course on how checks and balances work. But really, James Comey, search for them professionally. You're the same James Comey that allowed Loretta Lynch to dictate, according to your testimony, the terms of the investigation into Hillary Clinton, or when you made no real attempt to verify that phony Clinton bought and paid for dossier. As a matter of fact, you knew ahead of time. You were told by Bruce Orr ahead of time. You knew from the State Department 10 days earlier, and you still did it, using that as the basis, an unverified Russian dossier paid for by Clinton. But, of course, you didn't tell the court Clinton bought and paid for this garbage. A FISA warrant used to spy on the member of the Trump campaign so you can spy on the whole campaign. Although you don't call signing a FISA application spying, it is by definition spying, because now you're bugging every single aspect of Carter Page and getting a sneak peek into all things the world Trump. Or when you leak confidential notes on private conversations you had with the president to spur a special counsel investigation. Yeah? Is that professionally the search for truth and justice at the FBI, Jimbo? Jim Comey knows he's in deep trouble tonight. The problem with Comey is, I gave him this warning a long time ago before that dopey book of his came out. You should get off Twitter, stop writing dumb books, stay away from fake news CNN, and you do have the right to remain silent. I keep suggesting you use it because the truth is going to be revealed. And moments ago, during a massive rally in Pennsylvania, the president, he had this to say about the disgusting deep state corruption that took place under Jim Comey's watch, under the Biden-Obama administration. The whole thing was under their watch. Let's take a look.
This phony witch hunt that we all went through together is a disgrace. Now they're all blaming each other, do you see? They're all turning on each other. Isn't that pretty to watch? It's his fault. No, it's his fault. Nah, we caught them. They were spying. They were spying on our campaign. I'll tell you what, if that ever happened to the other side, this thing would have been over 2 years ago. And, you know, it would have been treason. They would have called it treason. And that's what it is. It was treason. And it should never be allowed to happen to another president again. Ever, ever, ever.